So, the next thing we're going to discuss is application ng derivative ng mga inverse trigonometric function sa sum and difference rule of differentiation. Kumbaga yung mga naka-group of terms na sila that are separated by the addition or subtraction operation. Okay? So, I think we've already discussed about that. So, basically, ito yung sum and difference rule of differentiation. So, ang derivative ng f of x plus or minus g of x is equal to the derivative of, sorry, mali ako ng bracket. The derivative of f of x plus or minus, the derivative of, wait lang. There you go. Derivative of g of x. Yan. Okay? So, ibig sabihin nun, kapag lahat ng terms naka-separated by the addition or subtraction, i-differentiate mo lang yung mga terms. Okay? So, basically, yun lang yun. So, now, let's have some examples. Let's just say you have the derivative of 3 times arc sine plus, sabihin natin, 8 times arc cosine. Okay? So, we have 3 arc sine of x plus 8 arc cosine of x. So, in here, ang mangyari dyan, so we will have the derivative of 3 times arc sine of x or arc sine x. Wait lang. Plus derivative ng 8 times arc cosine x. So now let's differentiate these given terms. So we have a constant 3 and a trigonometric function na arc sine. So magiging 3 times the derivative ng arc sine. Okay? Plus, ganun din dito sa second term, meron tayong constant na 8 at meron tayong function sa gilid na arc cosine. So magiging 8 times the derivative of arc cosine. So, let's now differentiate them. 3 times derivative ng arc sine. So, ano ulit yung derivative ng arc sine? Recall that ang derivative ng arc sine is basically 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Alright? So, therefore, magiging ano na to? 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Ayan. Next naman is derivative ng cosine. Arc cosine. So, ang derivative naman ng arc cosine, this is basically, the same lang sila ng arc sine na derivative, pero negative na lang siya. So, magiging negative 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So, we will have 8 times negative 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So, let's now multiply them together. So, 3 times 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So, magiging ganito na siya. So, 3 all over 1 minus x squared. So, the same thing on the second term. So, 8 times negative 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So, magiging negative 8 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. And as you can see, meron tayong positive at negative sign. Magkadikit. So, positive times negative is negative. So, magiging minus sign na to. Alright? So, we will have minus 8 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. We can still simplify this one. Okay? Because both of these terms, they are in fraction. Fraction sila talaga. And they are similar because they have common denominator. Kung ba magkapare sila ng denominator. Tingnan mo yung denominator nilang dalawa. They have square root of 1 minus x squared. So they are exactly the same, kumbaga. So we can add them together. So 3 minus 8 magiging negative 5 all over the square root of, wait lang, the square root of 1 minus x squared. So that is now our final answer. You can bring down the negative sign sa gilid. Wala namang problema dyan. The answer is still correct. Alright? So yun na yun. Okay? That's how you basically get the answer. So let's just say, meron tayong ganitong given. Alright? The derivative of 1, hindi, mali ako. Sabihin natin meron tayong 2/3 of tangent, arctangent pala, sorry, minus 2 times arcsine. So now, let's get the solution for this one. So ito, since the terms are separated by the subtraction operation, so ganito mangyayari sa kanila. So we will get the derivative of each of the terms. So 2/3 of arctangent, then minus derivative ng 2 times arcsine. So, kunin natin derivative nilang dalawa. Let's start with the first term. 2/3 arctangent. So, mangyari dyan, we will have 2/3 times the derivative of arctangent. Minus, ito, ganun din sa second term. Maging 2 times the derivative of arcsine. Ayan. Now, kunin natin derivative ng arctangent. What is the derivative of arctangent? So, if you're going to recall, ang derivative ng arctangent, arctangent x pala, sorry, it is 1 all over 1 plus x squared. Ganito yung tsura niya. So, therefore, ang derivative ng arctangent dito ay magiging 1 all over 1 plus x squared. Minus 2 times derivative ng arcsine. Nasabi ko na to kanina. Ang derivative ng arcsine, this is 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So now let's multiply them together. So in here, sa first term, if you're going to multiply these two fractions right here, magiging 2 times 2 all over 3 times quantity, 1 plus x squared. Minus, in here, magiging 2 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So we can stop here at yan yung magiging final answer natin. Alright? Pero we can still simplify this one. 2 all over 3 times quantity 1 plus x squared at saka si negative 2 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared, both of them are divisible by 2 at yan yung greatest common factor nilang dalawa, which is si 2. So we can factor out the 2 here. So mangyari dyan, we will have 2 times quantity, mali ako ng bracket form. 2 times quantity, 1 all over 3 times 1 plus 3 times quantity 1 plus x squared minus 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Okay? So, pwede na to as your final answer. Alright? Pwede na to. Or, since kasi you have two fractions and you want to make it as a whole fraction, pwede naman yan. So ito, if you're going to make this one, ito sa loob ng parenthesis. If you're going to make this into a whole fraction, I suggest you should use butterfly technique. Okay? I already taught you kung paano gumamit ng butterfly technique sa basics. Okay? Sa basics ng rules of differentiation. Okay? So, to go straight forward, okay? Ang sabihin ko na nga lang kung paano yung butterfly technique. Una, i-cross multiply mo sila. Okay? So, cross multiply natin yung 1 at saka yung square root ng 1 minus x squared. So, 1 times the square root of 1 minus x squared magiging square root of 1 minus x squared. Tapos, copy mo yung operation nila sa gitna. So, may minus ka. The next, 3 times quantity, 1 plus x squared times 1. So, magiging 3 times quantity, 1 plus x squared. Okay? Then, after that, multiply their denominators. Multiply mo yung denominators nila. Okay? So, 3 times quantity, 1 plus x squared, times the square root of 1 minus x squared, we will have this one. 3 times quantity, 1 plus x squared, times the square root of 1 minus x squared. Ayan na siya. Okay? There you go. Then, since kasi one whole fraction na to, and parang naka-simplified na siya, we can actually factor out one more time. At ano yung pwede ko i-factor out dito? Yung constant na si 3 sa baba. Pwede natin siyang i-factor out. Okay? We can factor out 1/3 dito. So what happens pag na-factor out natin siya ng 1/3? So magiging ano na to? Okay? When you factor out 1/3. So magiging 2 times 1/3 times quantity square root of 1 minus x squared minus 3 times quantity 1 plus x squared all over quantity 1 plus x squared times the square root of 1 minus x squared. Tala nga. Ganyan yung magiging itsura. So multiply the constants. 2 times 1/3 magiging ano na to? 2/3. Magiging simplified answer mo. The most simplified in my opinion. So for me, I'm gonna stop right here na kasi medyo mahaba na to. But yeah, again, no rush. Okay? Kung ayaw nyo na talagang ng medyo complicated, then syempre, piliin nyo to. Either this one or this one. Okay? This first two choices na answer. Okay? Ito or ito. Okay? I'm just giving you a multiple possible answers for this case. Alright? So third example natin. So let's say we have this one. The derivative of 2 times, sabihin natin, arc cosine plus 3 times arc cotangent minus arc tangent. Ayan. So parang meron tayong tatlong inverse trigonometric functions that are separated by the addition or subtraction operation. So in here, magiging ganito na siya. Okay, we will have the derivative of 2 times arc cosine plus the derivative of 3 times arc cotangent minus the derivative of arc tangent. There you go. Now let's what do you call this one? Let's now get their derivatives. So ito magiging 2 times derivative ng arc cosine plus ito ganun din kasi meron tayong constant na 3. So magiging 3 times the derivative of arc cotangent. Then dito, wala naman siyang constant, so pwede natin siyang diretsuhin natin siyang i-differentiate. So ano ulit na yung derivative ng arctangent? Nasabi ko na to kanina, na ang derivative ng arctangent ay 1 all over 1 plus x squared. So now let's differentiate the other terms. So 2 times derivative ng arc cosine, nasabi ko na to in the recent problem. Okay? The derivative, hindi recent, first problem pala, sorry. Nasabi ko na to sa first problem. Ang derivative ng arc cosine is negative 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Alright? Plus 3 times derivative ng arc cotangent. Ano yung derivative ng arc cotangent if you're going to recall in our last video? So, ang derivative ng arc cotangent, almost the same lang sila ng tangent, di ba? I mean, derivative ng arctangent, di ba? Just that, negative nga lang negative nga lang kay arc cotangent. Therefore, ang derivative ng arc cotangent x ay negative 1 all over 1 plus x squared. So you will have quantity negative 1 plus x squared. And now let's copy the other term. I mean the remaining terms. Ayan. So now let's simplify. So if you're going to simplify the first term here, i-multiply mo si 2 at saka si negative 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So magiging negative 2 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Ito naman, si 3, okay, sa second term, we have 3 times negative 1 all over 1 plus x squared. Magiging ano na to? 3 all over 1 plus x squared. Okay, negative 3 all over 1 plus x squared. Then, let's copy the other term. So, we can simplify this one kasi yung last two terms, si negative 3 all over 1 plus x squared at saka si negative 1 all over 1 plus x squared, both of them are similar fractions because they have the same denominators. So, we can add them together. So, if you're going to add them, the result would be, wait lang, i-copy ko mo yung mga ibang terms. The result would be negative 4 all over 1 plus x squared. Yan yung magiging resulta niya. Alright? So in here, we can still simplify this one. Okay? Since we have negative 2 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared, and we have negative 4 all over 1 plus x squared, both of them are divisible by negative 2. At yan yung greatest common factor nilang dalawa. Ang greatest common factor nilang dalawa ay si negative 2. Hence, we can factor out negative 2 dito. So we will have negative 2 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared plus 2 all over 1 plus x squared. So pwede na to as your final answer. Or we can simplify them. Katulad yung ginawa natin sa last problem, we can make it into a whole fraction. So we will use butterfly technique para dito tayo mahirapan. Okay? So 2 times quantity. So dito, we will cross multiply. 1 times 1 plus x squared, magiging 1 plus x squared lang siya. The next, copy the operation between them. So 1 tuloy plus pala. The next, cross-multiply natin si 2 at saka si square root 1 minus x squared. So 2 times square root of 1 minus x squared. So magiging 2 times square root of 1 minus x squared. All over, multiply natin yung denominator nilang dalawa. So magiging quantity 1 plus x squared times square root of 1 minus x squared. Ayan. So, pwede na to as your final answer. Okay? So, yun lang. So, either of these two, tama naman silang dalawa. So now let's go to the last problem. So our last problem consists of the derivative of 2/3 ng arcsecond minus 5 all over 3 times arcsine plus, ano ba yun? Ito pala, 1/3 ng arccosecant x. Ayan. There we go. So, let's differentiate them. Pero actually, before we differentiate them, I can simplify them. Do you know why? If you're going to look closely sa tatlong terms na to, what do they have in common? They have the denominator of 3. So, 2/3 times arcsecant x, negative 5/3 of arcsecant x, and 1/3 of arccosecant x, they are all divisible by 1/3. At yan yung greatest common factor nilang lahat, si 1/3. So, pwede natin siyang i-factor out. So, we can rewrite the given problem here as the derivative of 1/3, kailan nga? 1/3 times quantity, 2 times arcsecond, minus 5 times arcsine, plus arccosecant. Kailan nga? Arccosecant. Ayan, there you go. So, kunin natin derivative nila. So, ito meron tayong constant dito at meron tayong group of terms dito or expression na naka-inverse trigonometric function. So, we will have 1/3. Kailangan. So, we will have 1/3 times the derivative of 2 times arcsecond minus 5 times arcsine plus arccosecant. There you go. So na yun, as you can see, these are group of terms that are separated by the addition or subtraction operation. So we can differentiate the terms one by one. So we will have 1/3 times quantity. Ay, teka lang. 1/3 times quantity, the derivative of 2 times arcsecond minus the derivative of 5 times arcsine plus the derivative of arccosecant. Ayan. So we can now differentiate them one by one. So sa first term, meron tayong constant dito na 2 at meron tayong trigonometric function sa katabi. So we will have 2 times derivative ng arcsecant. Okay? The next, sa second term, ganun din. We have a constant 5 and a trigonometric function na magkatabi. So we will have, we will have 5 times the derivative of arcsine. And in here, wala namang siyang visible constant except C1 as its coefficient. So we can differentiate arccosecant x easily. So anong derivative ng arccosecant? So if you're going to recall, ang derivative ng arccosecant, this is negative 1 all over the absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. So magiging, ano na to? Plus, wait lang, plus negative 1 all over absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. There you go. Now, tuloy-tuloy pa rin natin ang ating gawain. Okay? Kasi we need to differentiate the first two terms. Okay? So, let's start with the first term. Anong derivative ng arcsecond? So, kung naalala niyo yung last video na sinabi ko, na yung derivative ng arcsecond at saka ang derivative ng arccosecond, halos magkaparesang sila. It just that, magkaiba nga lang sila ng opposite signs. Si arccosecond, siya ay negative 1 all over absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. Therefore, si second, siya yung positive. Okay? So, magiging quantity 1 all over the absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. There you go. Minus 5 times derivative ng arc sine. So, anong derivative ng arc sine? So, if you're going to recall, this is 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Okay? And since dito naman sa last term, we have positive and negative sign. So, mangyayari dyan, positive times negative is negative. So, magiging minus 1 all over absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. Ayan. So, let's multiply them. Simplify pala, sorry. So, sa first term, if you're going to multiply 2 at saka yung naka-parenthesis, magiging ano na to? 2 all over absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. Okay? Then next, sa second term, if you're going to multiply negative 5 at saka yung naka-parenthesis na 1 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared, magiging negative 5 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. There you go. And let's copy the other term. Now, let's simplify. Yung first term at saka yung last term, okay, which is ito yon, biniligon ko na, itong dalawa, both of them are similar fractions kasi magkapare sila ng denominator. So, we can add them together. Okay? So, by doing so, ipagdikit ko muna silang dalawa para di tayo mahirapan. So, let me copy the first term, which is 2 all over absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. Tapos minus 1 all over absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1. Ay, wait lang, sorry. Ayan. X squared minus 1. Tapos, i-copy natin yung mga ibang terms na hindi kasama, which is si negative 5 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. Okay? So now let's add the first two terms together. So pag in-add natin silang dalawa, magiging ano na to? Magiging 1 all over absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1 minus 5 all over the square root of 1 minus x squared. So for me, I can stop right here. Okay na to. Or, you can make this into a whole fraction kasi meron ka naman dalawang fraction na nakaseparate by the subtraction operation. So, with the use of butterfly technique, we can make it into a whole fraction. There's no problem. So, just cross multiply. 1 times the square root of 1 minus x squared. So, magiging ano na to? Square root of 1 minus x squared. Tapos, copy the operation between them. So, minus. Then, cross multiply 5 and absolute value of x times square root of x squared minus 1. So, magiging 5 times the absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1 all over, last but not the least, multiply the two denominators. Okay? So, dito, if you're going to multiply them, okay, we can either have absolute value of x times the square root of x squared minus 1 times the square root of 1 minus x squared, or pwede natin silang ipagsama itong nakadalawang fraction, itong dalawang naka-square root. So magiging ano na to? This would be the square root of, wait lang the square root of x squared minus 1 times quantity 1 minus x squared. Ayan. So pwede rin yan. And for me, I would rather do this one. Alright, I guess that's it naman guys. Okay, I'm just gonna stop right here. So okay na to para sa akin. If you think there's another way to simplify this one, then sige, there's no problem. Basta tama siya. Okay? So overall, ito na yung application ng inverse trigonometric function sa sum and difference rule of differentiation. Alright? So, this one is easy lang naman. Basta if if possible, after you get the derivative of each of the functions or terms, I suggest na kailangan mo siyang i-simplify afterwards. Because if you get the most simplified answer, then that would be the that would be the most acceptable answer. Okay? So anyways, yun lang. So the next thing we're going to discuss is yung application ng product rule of differentiation nito. Alright?